What do you think was a critical turning point in American history?
I think the election of Abraham Lincoln was the most important political event that has happened.
What was his political view?
He wanted to stop the expansion of slavery to the West, but Abraham Lincoln's main goal was to preserve the Union. He viewed slavery as immoral and unjust, and in his Republican view, he vouched for stopping the expansion of slavery from going westward. Through his political views, he was not an abolitionist because, although he didn't want to expand slavery, he didn't plan on abolishing slavery if it meant saving the Union. In his letter to Horace Greeley, he says, "If I could save the Union without freeing any slave, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing all the slaves, I would do it. And if I could save it by freeing some and leaving others alone, I would also do that," which shows his stance on slavery. He also mentioned how he wouldn't manipulate slavery in already existing slaves, which also showed his dire need to save the Union. Due to his political position on slavery, he got resistance.
Really? Where did this resistance come from?
It came from the South. During this time period, the nation was divided into two parties. In 1850, Henry Clay and Daniel Webster created a compromise in order to create equal power between the North and the South. According to Omega Education, it created a series of separately enacted measures, each of which became law with a majority of congressmen from each section voting against a majority of those from the other. What this compromise allowed was for each state to be given laws specifically for their state. For example, California was appended as a free state, which created a divide between the amount of slave and free states. Popular sovereignty was allowed in New Mexico and Utah if it were to be a free state or slave state, or etc. The controversy of slavery was still continued, and which was evident through the Kansas-Nebraska Act. In the beginning of the presidential election of 1860, it was split into Republicans, Southern Democrats, and those who supported the Constitutional Union, and Northern Democrats. The South was mainly Democrat, while the North was Republican. This meant in the South it was pro-slavery, while in the North it was split into abolitionists and those who were against the expansion of slavery. Since Lincoln was a Republican and sought to stop the spread of slavery, he got resistance from the South.
So what did the South do to stop Lincoln?
The South did the only thing they thought they could do. They seceded.
Why did they secede?
They seceded because they wished to keep slavery around. The South thought that if they stayed in the Union, the North would eventually want to get rid of slavery. The removal of slavery would cripple the Southern economy since most of the people in the South relied on slave work.
And how do you know that the South seceded?
Well, in my off time, I read a textbook by Eric Foner. In it, he said, in the months following Lincoln's election, 7 states stretching from South Carolina to Texas seceded from the Union. These were the states of the Cotton Kingdom, where slaves represented a larger part of the total population than in the Upper South.
You said that they gave resistance. Was seceding really a big deal?
Yes, it was a big deal. The Union was falling apart, and that's not what Lincoln wanted.
That is a big deal. And what did Lincoln do?
There was little that Lincoln could do. The government said the states had no right to secede, but the government couldn't do anything to stop it.
That is a problem. What did President Lincoln do once the South seceded?
Again, there was little he could do. Since the reason they left was his election, there was little hope to bring the Union back together once it came separated.
There's a lot of controversy on whether or not Abraham Lincoln should be celebrated for his stance on slavery. What is your opinion?
It's very controversial of his opinion on of slavery and African Americans in the U.S., since although he didn't want to stop the spread of it, he didn't view them as equals to white. He believed that blacks should be limited to basic rights of the Declaration of Independence. For example, Lincoln was against giving blacks in Illinois the right to vote and serve on juries. According to Lincoln, he mentioned in his letter that he wishes all men everywhere could be free, which is hypocritical since although he tried to stop the western expansion of slavery, he ultimately cared solely of the Union not abolishing slavery. In the U.S., we celebrate Lincoln and his view him as a supporter of black people having equality and abolishing slavery. Although that wasn't necessarily true, we should celebrate him for trying to stop the expansion of slavery, not his view as abolitionist or as someone who viewed black as equal. And C.